alongside comestible and presenting on the anticonvulsant activity potential oil of fresh young shoot of asparagus is known as yeah. We know that plant is a major base for the medicines that we have in the market, and this particular plant is known for its use as both vegetable and also medicine. Next slide. Okay, so for this particular plant, ethnomedicinally, it's been found to be used for CNS related disorders, including including the treatment of convulsions. So this plant, and we also it's also been established that essential oil also has neuropharmacological activities, and it has been found in literature, or it has been established in literature to be used in the treatment of convulsion. So this plant, the essential oil, was extracted for this particular study, and for the method we used different models, used chemoconvulsants, including methylene tetrazole, picotoxin, aminophylline, strychnine, and then the electroconvulsion model too was used with different mechanism of action. Next slide. Alright, so this is the result for the methylene tetrazole-induced convulsion. And this particular proconvulsant, that is the methylene tetrazole, acts via the GABAergic pathway. It acts on the GABA A receptors. And for the 3 doses used, it was found out that there was significant increase in the convulsion intensity, that is the time it took the animal to convulse, that is the observation of the hind limb tonic extension. So at 150 mg per kg and 200 mg per kg, there was an increment in the convulsion intensity, and the time of death also was increased at all the doses. Okay, next slide. So this is picotoxin. This also acts via GABA, but this acts slower compared to the methylene, which is actually a fast-acting proconvulsant. Again, the oil was gave a significant effect at 200 mg per kg, and for the time of death, there was significance at both the 150 and the 200 mg per kg. Next slide. Yeah, so for the aminophylline-induced convulsion, it has been established that aminophylline, which is known in the treatment of asthma, at a very high dose, it can actually induce a seizure. And the mechanism via which it has been said to be acting is via the inhibition of adenosine. And adenosine is an inhibitory neurotransmitter in the CNS. And once there is an inhibition of the adenosine kinase, which is an enzyme that breaks, that causes the breakdown of adenosine. Once there's an inhibition of that particular enzyme, then there will be, that agent is said to be useful, a potential agent to treat convulsion. So looking at this particular result, at 200 mg per kg, there was an increment in the convulsion latency, but for the time of death, there was an increment in time of death at 150 and 200 milligram. It was at those 2 doses that there was significant effect, and it's for the dose of 200 milligram per kg, that is actually comparable to the standard, which was that is phenobarbital at 30 milligram per kg. The next slide. So this is strychnine. This acts via the glycinergic pathway, the glycine receptors on the spinal cord, and the significant effect was actually noticed at 150. Its increment in dose, there was no significant effect. Okay, conclusion. So the study concluded that the asparagus of Sudan is essential as significant anti-convulsant activity in mice.
Thank you. Any question, please? Yes, madam.
You worked on mice, right?
Yes.
What species? You didn't tell us the species of the mice. Then I keep hearing time of death. Is the essential oil not supposed to prevent? Is it to prevent death or convulsion? I just need clarification.
Thank you very much. The parameters that we assessed during the study included the conversion latency, which is time it took the animal to converse. So it is expected that when the conversion latency is elongated or there is no conversion at all, then the agent is said to have a potential for that anticonvulsal activity. Then for the time of death, going by the models that were used, there's a cut-off time. Once the animal does not die within 30 minutes of the experiment, it is expected that the agent is said to be protective. So those are the two parameters assessed. So the essence of using the different models was just to assess the different, because they had via different mechanism of action, and even this MES had via the voltage ion channel. So that's the essence of using the different. Then for the species, we used the albino mice.
Okay, yes, sir.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for the excellent talk. I'm just wondering.
All right, sir.
Even from this slide,
Okay, sir.
I'm just wondering how did you are talking about essential oil, and we are talking about weight here. I want you to clarify, how do you do that for you to get? We are talking about the essential oil.
All right, sir.
And we are talking about weight here, 150 milligrams per kg. So how did you achieve that?
Okay. This is actually
Essential oil is from
yes. It was
different
actually weighed, and then of course there are two ways of doing it. You can actually use the density of the oil to do the calculation.
Okay.
Yeah. So those were actually
Is that what you did, or you don't weigh that?
weigh what?
Weigh directly, or you use the density factor to convert.
Use the density.
That's what you did.
And use the density.
Okay, so the oil was more of like a prophylactic rather than for treatment.
No, not prophylactic.
It was for treatment of the combustion
The conversion
induced.
was induced.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next, please.
For the identification of potential Plasmodium falciparum, the hydrophilic drug inhibitors. Next slide. So these are the outlines. I'll be talking about the background of the study, aims and objectives, methodology, results, conclusion, references, and all. Next slide. So the background of the study is about the parasite called Plasmodium falciparum, and this parasite is known as the causative agent of malaria, and it poses significant global challenges, and the emergence of resistance is responsible for this particular challenge, and the marker, which is pyrimethamine, has developed. The parasite has developed resistance against the drugs that are currently used, and pyrimethamine is an example of this drug. So, and this drug resistance has prompted the need to discover new drugs that can treat malaria, that have high efficacy and have minimal side effects. Next slide. So the aim of an objective of this study is to conduct in silico screening and to discover novel anti-malaria inhibitors that are derived from phytochemicals, and also to identify and assess potential drug candidates that are effective against both the wild type and the mutant PFDHFR proteins. So, in this methodology of the work, it explains that how the drug works is that the drug binds to the receptor, and due to the resistance that the parasite has developed, it has reduced the ability of the drug to bind to the receptor. So what we did in this study is to screen phytochemicals that have an antiplasmodium activities to see how they can bind effectively to the target protein. So we identified the target protein, which is the wild type target protein, and also the mutant. So for the mutant target protein, we have the double mutant and also the quadruple mutant. So we now used computational approaches. This is the workflow of the study. We used these approaches to screen and these phytochemicals so as to get the best phytochemicals or compounds that can effectively bind to the target protein and inhibit the action of the parasite. So the first approach that we use is Lipinski rule of 5. Next slide. Lipinski rule of 5. So for the Lipinski rule of 5, it says that for a drug to be used as an oral candidate, it must have a log P, which is less than 5. It must have molecular weight less than 500 gram per mole, and then the surface area should be less than 140, and also the acceptor, the hydrogen bond acceptor and the hydrogen bond donator should be less than 10 and 5. So we use that to screen over 619 compounds. So for the first stage, we're able to reduce the number of compounds to 441, from 619 to 441. So the compounds that could not meet up to 2 of the requirements were reduced to 441. So from the 441 compounds, we moved it to the next stage of the computational screening. The next one was the COSA model. COSA is a quantitative structure activity relationship model. So we built a particular model based on the structures of the compound to see how this compound can effectively bind to. So we screened the 441 compounds to 241 and 200 weak inhibitors. So we used also pharmacophore hypothesis to also identify the pharmacophoric features, and then we moved to the next stage, which is the docking. The docking was used also in 3 stages. We have the HTBS, SP, and also the XP. So we use that to now get the top compounds. So the top compounds had scores that are higher than the standard. We use the standard, which is pyrimethamine. Alright, so next slide. So so for the conclusion, we're able to get that these compounds had greater docking scores compared to our standard. Our standard we used was pyrimethamine, and pyrimethamine has developed resistance. So we discovered novel drug candidates that can effectively bind to the target protein, both the wild type and also to the mutant target protein. We also did the toxicity profiling.
Thank you. You did a lot of stuff. But part of it is how to manage the time to get, okay? So wait, maybe from the questions we to expatiate on the other things that we did. Any questions, please? And if there's no question, I'll allow you to continue. Okay, sir.
Yeah,
Sir, are you the supervisor?
No.
Okay, please. Okay.
Yes, it's supervisor. Please, can we scroll the... Yes. How did you calculate MMGPSA? Is it from docking score?
Yes. After identifying the top compounds, we ran analysis using the software to get the scores. So the MMGPSA score is to know the binding energy, how after the drugs are binding to to see how they can effectively. That's the score. The score shows how effectively the drug can bind to target proteins.
No, I'm just wondering now. I don't know, because I know you may have to do some molecular dynamics before you can calculate MMGPSA. But when I see docking and MG, I don't know. I'm not familiar with getting MMGPSA from docking. I don't know how that's possible.
For the MD simulation actually shows how stable that's the stability in the interaction. So, but if it comes to MMGPS is just the binding energy, just to show the binding energy between ligand and the target protein. So it shows how the energy actually shows how much the drug can bind.
I understand what it shows.
Alright.
I understand what it shows. What I mean is that how did you get there?
Okay, the software that we used, which is an issue, it's possible to use to run an analysis using the MGBS.
It's possible to run MMGPS.
Yes, MMGBS.
So it's not that MMGPS then is derived from docking.
It is not from docking, it is a separate.
It's not that. That's one thing we don't know. Because I don't know.
Okay, so that's another way.
You will see your supervisor and you discuss what that is. Yes.
The anti-malaria you're talking about is only pyrimethamine.
Okay, based on the mechanism of action of the type thing that we see, DHFR. So pyrimethamine is the drug that actually inhibits.
But it doesn't stand alone. I don't think I've seen.
Yes, pyrimethamine and sulfadoxine.
It doesn't
It
stand.
does not stand alone, sulfadoxine and pyrimethamine. But based on the resistance that the parasite has developed against pyrimethamine, it's particularly about pyrimethamine.
We have two protein. We have DHFS, we have DHFR. So his research is focusing on DHFR. So that is the reason why he's talking about
Thank you, madam.
You mentioned Lipinsky's rule of five. I'm curious, is that Lipinsky's rule of five, is it just for orally used?
For oral drug.
Oral drugs,
Yes.
okay, I know that. So you are telling me that these phytoconstituents that you discovered, they are going to be for oral use, right?
Yes, there is.
Not intravenous or any other.
Not it's oral.
Yeah, then my last question, are they going to be used as herbal, or is it going to be normal conventional tablets that we are looking at?
It can be used as normal conventional, because after this particular stage, the next stage will be to synthesize them in the lab.
In the lab, okay.
Yes.
So
Any other question, please?
No.
So what's the significance of
the log P actually shows the absorption, the absorption rate, because log P is a function of the permeability constant, how the drug can pass through the for absorption. So log P. So if a drug has a log P less than 5, it shows that it can effectively pass through the permeability for the drug to be absorbed into the system.
Okay, class, general question. What's the source of weight of this method?
Okay, the success rate is that it reduces the period of time in the process of drug discovery. After discovering that the plant has an activity, so it's going to take longer time to start extracting the compounds to see the one that has the activity. But using this method, it has reduced the phase of. So you can easily use that to discover the particular compounds that has the activity for the.
So this not only to you but to the supervisor as well. How do this compare with the new, let's say the new philosophy of synthesizing drugs? How do you use fractions rather than looking for single drugs which have a tendency to be resistant to develop? Can you use this to do that? Can you use this method to look for fractions that are better activity rather than other fractions?
Of course, yeah. I think we have area where we talk about pharmaco 4.
Okay. You may sit there. Thank you. That's something to say.
Analysis was carried out using the UV spectrophotometer, which is a technique mostly used in pharmaceutical analysis. So the aim of the study is to investigate the quality of some brands of acetaminophen marketed in patent medicine outlets in Abuja. Here is the structure of acetaminophen, which is the same thing as paracetamol. And the methods employed are the basic methods, the official methods. The assessment was carried out by checking the physical presentation of the drugs. First of all, the drug was sampled around Dede axis of Abuja, Dede Dakwa. The patent medicine pharmacy and patent medicine outlets there, we sampled 10 samples of acetaminophen tablets, and then they were subjected to all the pharmaceutical parameters. The identification, the physical identification, then the weight variation, weight uniformity test was also carried out. Then the friability test was also carried out on the 10 tablets using a Roche fibrillator and following standard methods. The hardness test was also carried out for each of the brands that was bought. Also, disintegration test was carried out following standard methods. The assay was carried out using UV spec at a wavelength of 257 nanometer. The A1% method was used according to BP. And here are the steps or laboratory equipment that was used: the analytical balance, glasswares, shaker, then the UV spec. So from this result, we could see that from the assay, especially the assay, it was just sample A3 that complied with the BP specification of not less than 95 and not more than 105%. The others were not complying, and sample A2 was 80% thereabouts. Sample A5 was 70%. While for the weight uniformity, they all complied, apart from sample A4 and sample A5 that their variation was rather high. Then the hardness too, they all, sample A3 was high, as well as sample A4. Then the friability, they all comply with the standard in that there was none that was above 1%. Disintegration test, they all disintegrated before 15 minutes. In fact, so the discussion that the results showed that 8 of the 10 samples passed the uniformity of weight test, and only sample A3, we happen to be the innovator, complied with the acceptance criteria of 95 to 105. Sample A2 and A5 initially even failed the weight uniformity test. The hardness ranged from 7.6 to 17.6 kg. The friability, we could see that they were within the accepted limit, and the disintegration was within 15 minutes. So from the conclusion, from the assay, we could see that only the innovator brand, which is Panadol, complied and met the acceptance criteria. Shows that there should be a periodic routine analysis we carried out on these samples, especially in our in the areas that the patent medicine, for some people have patronized them, and we know that because of economic power and because of the economic challenge, this can always go on. So we encourage that regulatory authorities should monitor the activities of these patent medicine vendors so as not to pose serious health challenge to our public. These are my references. Thank you for listening.
Any comments on the question for? Any comments on the work done? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for the engaging presentation. My question is, what informs the use of just 10 grants? Paracetamol is one of the most common medication, and I feel that the sample size should have been bigger. Was there anything that informed the use of just 10 grants in the study?
Hello?
Hello? Okay. The question, okay, what informed my sample size?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, as I said, I just picked just an area, like it's not really it's like a rural area anyway, just to sample the Panadol or the brands that are being sold in the patent medicine facility there. So, but it could still, for further studies, I plan to make it bigger, to go through the six area council.
So what do you think you can add for the results you got if the products themselves are they are produced in compliance with standards as certified by NAFTA. Then would you have seen that they are not passing the results while on the markets? What do you think will account for this?
Thank you, sir. I personally, normally, I think the challenge is their storage, because most of them, the way they store these drugs, where they keep them, they can easily start to fail stability. They can fail, they can begin to degrade even without knowing. When sometimes the temperatures are not controlled, the temperature of where these drugs are stored are not controlled. Unlike the normal pharmacy premise where you use AC and the rest of them, those ones don't use, they just keep it, you know. So I think it's also, I believe it's part of the reason why these drugs are not passing. And then sometimes in terms of the quality that he's been put in these drugs before, sometimes they don't, some of these drugs that you don't even know they are the country of, some of them from India and all these places, they don't really, their GMP is poor. So sometimes they maybe the ones that they'll give to NAFDAC will be passing, and then the other brands that they push to the market, they will not comply with the necessary. So I think these are some of the things I personally feel may be responsible for such.
Personal opinion, circulation of that. It is they are registered, and by now that's a measure of the assurance of quality. So I think if you are going to focus more on their storage conditions that you mentioned, I guess what do you call it? Scientific data to ascertain that, so we'll be able to advise them, whoever is monitoring them. Any other questions? No. Thank you.
Because it's just one rural area, but it's saying marketed in Abuja.
Yeah, please, there's a question online. Please, you may ask your question, please.
I go ahead.
Yes,
Okay.
Hello. Hello. I have a comment, please.
Okay, please.
I wanted to ask if you used calibration curve method for your assay, because sometimes if you use the A1% 1 centimeter and you're not using the BP chemical reference substance, your assay result might be false. So before we conclude that those brands are not passing, usually it's advised to do calibration curve method if you have the substance, the reference sample, but you don't have the BP chemical reference substance and you use A1% 1 centimeter, sometimes you don't get the correct assay results. That's what me I found out. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your comment. Actually, this study is still going to continue. We're even going to use HPLC to analyze, and so it's not, we just want to, this is the preliminary stage of the work. But being that the method is BP, and the only thing they stated that we should use is sodium hydroxide for the assay. Assay. But where a drug is even failing weight variation, you can see that there's no way it can even pass.
Thank you for your presentation. A lot of applause for let's move on, please. Thank you for your question. Please write it down and send it to the coordinators. Okay. Dr. Winga, are you online?
Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes. Who are you, sir?
Hello, can you hear me, sir? Hello, sir.
Who are you, sir?
I am Ibrahim Oguyinka from the Department of Clinical Pharmacy and Pharmacy Practice, Usmanu Danfodio University, Sokoto.
Okay. You have a video. At least your video will be played and then you answer the questions afterwards, sir. So,
good afternoon. I am Ibrahim Oguyinka, a PhD candidate from the University of Benin City, Edo, Nigeria. I'm also affiliated with the Clinical Pharmacy Department the Department of Clinical Pharmacy and Pharmacy Practice, Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto. At this conference, this is my video. It is titled Audit of Epilepsy Transition Care in Sokoto, Nigeria. And below are the list of co-authors and their affiliations. The background: epilepsy is a common neurological disorder that affects all age groups globally. Its burden is disproportionately more on patients that are in developing countries and those being offered transition care from their pediatric age, say 15 to 24 years. The study aims to determine the predictors of epilepsy care or treatment outcomes among groups on transition from the childhood care to adult care. The methods, I assessed patient care folders for the past 7 years for those that met the eligibility criteria between 15 and 24 years, assessing care at the adult neurologic clinics of both Usman Danfodio University Teaching Hospital and the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Kwale, both in Sokoto. The eligibility criteria also includes those that have been receiving anti-epileptic drugs at least for the past 6 months. The data were analyzed using SSS version 25 and significant association were also recorded. The study was approved by the Ethics and Research Committee of the respective centers. The results: about 1,170 patients participated in the study. Following normality check, it was not a normal distribution for the age and other continuous variable. Thus, the median and interquartile range were recorded instead. The median and interquartile range were 19 and 15 years respectively. And of course, the age at first seizure was also as indicated. The patients were mostly males diagnosed of general tonic epilepsy, AED adherents, uncompromised monotherapy, with their seizures being controlled. 54.7% of the participants, their seizures were controlled, just slightly above half of them that their seizures were controlled. We also found out that psychosis, depression, and headache, AED non-adherence, adverse anti-epileptic drug non-adherence were the most common comorbidity and triggers respectively. The significant predictors were anti-epileptic drug monotherapy, precipitating factors or the triggers for the seizures, adverse effects of the anti-epileptic drugs, and seizure types. I concluded that being on carbamazepine monotherapy, aged between 15 and 20 years, not experiencing any adverse effect from the anti-epileptic drug being taken, and also generalized tonic-clonic epilepsy were the predictors of the effective seizure control. This is because the generalized tonic-clonic seizure are easily noticed. Thus, they were easily taken care of and any presentation. And of course, that age group, 15 to 24 years, they were just leaving the regular pediatric care, which is usually between 0 to 14 years, and just transitioning. The movement from the pediatric unit to the adult unit needs to be intervened upon, because probably information are not being passed from when they were in the pediatric unit to now in the adult unit, making it not having a seamless transition or seamless movement from the pediatric section, children section, to the adult section. They are young adults, 15 to 24 years, 15 to 19 are older adolescents, while 21 to 24 years are young adults. And this is at the phase where they need effective seizure control. And because epilepsy affects the brain, as we've seen in the references cited, this part of the study, this age group were usually neglected, as have been seen from the studies. And also, there are very few studies in the country, Nigeria, that have looked at this age group. That is one of the reasons. That was one of the reasons we looked at this age group. And we also intend following it up with prospective studies as well. So in conclusion, appropriate pharmacotherapy that involves identifying seizure triggers, use of AED monotherapy with those that have tolerable or no adverse effect is recommended. These are my slides, these are the references. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Buyinka. Questions for Dr. Buyinka, please. Yes, sir.
I can hear you, sir.
Yeah, we're waiting for questions or comments on your presentation. Okay. In the light of the comment, Mr. Buyinka. Hello, sir. What you have done is an audit of the records of those under 15, of those 15 to 20, and you said that the major reason why there seems to be negligence of these people or the neglect of these people is due to the fact that they're just moving from the pediatric to the adult wards. Was this part of the findings or just a speculation there? Let's have what's the number, sir?
79.
Well, 079. So you have 5 minutes of presentation, and then we will question you indefinitely.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're presenting on the antibacterial activity of the hydroethanolic extract of Terminalia everensis leaves against multi-drug resistant bacteria. This is a teamwork from researchers from the Department of Pharmaceutics, Pharmaceutical Chemistry, and Pharmaceutical Microbiology. And I am Abdullah Al-Bakar Sadiq, who will be taking you on this trip. This study is of particular importance to us because when I was a teenager, I lost my dear and beloved auntie to the cold hands of multi-drug resistance. She was diagnosed with diabetes and then she incurred a wound on her leg. This wound became resistant, and despite several antimicrobial therapies that were administered, it ended up eating up her leg. At the end of the day, she was amputated and she lost her life in the process. This made us look at the United Nations Environmental Program that estimated that by 2050, over 10 million people are going to be affected by antimicrobial resistance, which is at par with the 2020 rate of cancer. And then we decided to start this study with looking at plants that have folkloric use in management of infections. One of those plants is Terminalia everensis, which we found has been used in Cote d'Ivoire and other parts of West Africa for the management of skin, teeth, and vocal infections. It is locally known as Igbo Bauchi or Afaradu in Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba languages. We started the study by collecting leaves from the departments of Botany, and we authenticated it with Mr. Eze Tobechukwu, and also deposited it in the herbarium. The herbarium number is LH99. We extracted following cold maceration as described by Adelola et al. In 2023. We also conducted phytochemical analysis of this extract following the method of Redman and Frankel in 1957, and we assessed the antimicrobial activity of the hydroethanolic extract on selected multi-drug resistant bacteria. Adelola et al. In 2023 characterized the bacterial species that we worked on to be extended spectrum beta-lactamase and AMC beta-lactamase producing species of Klebsiella pneumonia, oxacillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, down to Pseudomonas aeruginosa. At the end of our study, we discovered that our plant extract was rich in alkaloids, tannins, flavonoids, cardioglycosides, and phenols. Of specific importance is the high concentration of phenols, which is in agreement with other studies that has been done. And this may also explain the rationale for its antibacterial activity. This graph shows the mean inhibition zone diameter of Salmonella everensis leaves against gram-negative organisms and levofloxacin. From our graph, we see that 3 species of Klebsiella pneumoniae were inhibited by Salmonella everensis. However, they showed resistance to levofloxacin, and this is in close comparison with the result of Getter et al. In 2020, who showed 110 isolates of Klebsiella pneumoniae that were resistant to levofloxacin. However, we see from this place that there is hope for this kind of conditions. For the gram-positive organisms, we had a similar, next slide. For the gram-positive organisms, we had a similar scenario. However, we see that levofloxacin had better inhibition against the gram-positive organisms, except for Staphylococcus zoonosis. In the case of Staphylococcus zoonosis, Salmonella everensis had better inhibition than levofloxacin, and the mean zone of inhibition was 30 millimeter plus or minus 1 standard deviation. This table here shows us a comparison of the mean inhibition of Salmonella everensis and levofloxacin standard. It is noteworthy that I state at this point that all concentrations of Salmonella everensis that were studied showed inhibitory activity against the multi-drug resistant bacteria. However, some strains of multi-drug resistant bacteria were resistant to levofloxacin. In conclusion, we can see that Salmonella everensis exhibits marked antibacterial activity against multi-drug resistant bacteria, especially for the gram-negative species. And this is of crucial importance because the gram-negative species represent the hallmark of drug resistance in our clinical climate today. This study heightens the need for further isolation of the bioactive constituents of Salmonella everensis and the design for therapeutic novel compounds. To summarize with this quote, MDR multi-drug resistance doesn't have a face, it has a sword. And until we design novel therapeutic compounds from natural templates like Salmonella everensis, it will continue ravaging the lives of so many, like it did to my aunt. Thank you for your audience. Okay, my references are shown here. These are selected references. The other references are in our match.
Okay, thank you. Any question for Mr. Abdullah? Before you, sorry, just a minute. Your last conclusion, this study item is need for further isolation. That's not from this work. What you worked on was not an isolate, right? Was not a pure drug.
No work on the crude extract.
Exactly.
So we are saying that we recommend that other studies be done to isolate.
So get the crude extract that can be used. They can be used directly. Why would you want to isolate them?
Well, in our study, we found out that the phytochemical constituents beyond phenol, which are the characterized to be antibacterial, there are other phytochemical constituents which may not be contributing to the antibacterial activity. So in order to which may, that's I did me,
but
in order
was not the activity that you wanted.
Yeah.
So why do you want to reduce the
okay, the essence of the isolation is that
you have other whether those fractions are more active than you think that that's not bioactivity.
That's actually the end goal of this project, because after isolation, then we can now characterize structures that we can also synthesize.
Have you done isolation? Okay, let's go. Isolation.
No, we did extraction.
Extraction, then
Thank you. Because I know I said, because it seems more interesting.
Then I've also realized that when you are presenting like there, I thought it has something that people can easily see. It makes it interesting. So I've just learned that, and I'm not thinking, oh, when I want to do my next, my prefer do forward. Like other thing also that this maybe they're able to use AI.
Yes.
I'll try that. Yeah. What is your status? Let me start.
I am an MS student for the University of Lagos, Department of Pharmaceutical Chemistry.
So I saw the way my day was written, so I was like.
Thank you. You see what?
Okay, madam.
I just have a
Mike.
I just have a comment. I think your presentation was great, and I like how you reminded everybody that University of Lagos is the University of First. That's what the ambitions.
Okay, in reality, for the past 3 years, the University of Ilorin has been the University of first choice. That's what we must know. It's a fact. So I know it's your dream. Your aspiration. Go back. So at the time, but they refused to use it, to remove it, when it became second, third, fourth. Or like, that's what ambition always be first. Say, do animation the other part, but it's still the first. You can't take the first. Yes. Yes.
Why are you comparing your benchmarks with process? Is that the standard?
Okay. Thank you very much for your question. In a study, levofloxacin is actually indicated. Levofloxacin and moxifloxacin, they are indicated for the management of multi-drug resistant bacteria. So we actually did our literature search and found out that those two drugs were the reference standards that have been used for management of multi-drug resistant bacteria. And apart from the study that Getter et al. Did to show that 110 isolates of Klebsiella pneumoniae were resistant, no other study has negated the activity of levofloxacin on multi-drug resistant bacteria.
So one information for you. Also, you can try your extract even on TB, microbacteria. So because levofloxacin is also positioned for multi-drug resistant TB.
Thank you very much for that recommendation.
I understand we have some people online. If you have any question, please speak up.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, Dr. Hosseini, you may go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you so much, Abdullah, for the wonderful presentation. I was just curious. I wanted to know at what concentration of the extract did you get your results, and also the levofloxacin that you used. Is it the recommended dose that's being used? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. We use 3 concentrations of Terminella alvarensis, and that's 400 milligram per mil, 200 milligram per mil, and 100 milligram per mil. And we found activity of the Terminella alvarensis on all of the concentrations studied. Then for levofloxacin, we use the standard concentrations that were described by Adedola et al., who had also worked on this set of organisms with another plant, and that was 50 microgram per mil, 25 microgram per mil, 12.5 microgram per mil, and then 6.25 microgram. So those are the concentrations that were studied. For Terminella alvarensis, all concentration studies showed results. Provide us with your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well done.
Okay. Any other question?
No.
My hand is up. Yes, please. All right. I don't know.
Yes, I want to ask a question.
Madam, yes, please. Wait for the mic.
I want to thank you for a very wonderful presentation. Just flowed, very interesting. But however, I just want to find out why did you decide to go for higher up your extras, beginning from 400, 200, and 100? Do you think of going lower down? Because the smaller the concentration is effective, better for the outcome. That's number one. Number two is the focusing, being the standard. Do you think about the commonly used loans, like focusing, for instance? But the truth is, there's a higher use of stickle than label in everyday practice. Why do you think we need to consider using a simple study?
Thank you very much for your question. On the first question, the study is a continuum. We're actually still going to look for that studies to determine the minimum inhibition concentration. This study is a preliminary study to actually confirm if this extract is going to be having any activity on multi-drug resistant bacteria, and yes, at all. And from our literature search, this is the first of such kind of studies on this plant. So subsequent studies is going to study the minimum inhibitory concentration that will guide further formulation studies. Then on the second question about the use of levofloxacin, as I mentioned earlier, in our literature search, it's found that there has actually been emerging resistance to ciprofloxacin. So two fluoroquinolones are actually recommended, most recommended for management of multi-drug resistant bacteria, and that is levofloxacin and moxifloxacin. On the basis of costs, we decided to start with levofloxacin because comparing the two costs, levofloxacin is much more accessible to patients. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, any question or comment from you? Yes.
Oh, thank you very, very much. Thank you. I want to say well done to Abdullahi Said. He is a current class representative, MSc, FAMCA. You did very well. But I want to encourage you, please. You need to pick up the PhD form. Don't run away from us. Immediately you finish your MSc, you want to join us as a lecturer. God bless you.
Thank you, ma. I've been trying to convince him. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I think we'll take a break now.
Yes.
I will take a break. Let's take a break, and then we'll try and catch up with all those that are outstanding. Let's take maybe 10 minutes break. I'm sure you know that the best ones come at the last. So you have 5 minutes.
So I'm a final year pharmacy student of Olabisi Banjo University, and I want to present my undergraduate project under the supervision of Dr. Okoye. The title of the project is Evaluation of some selected salad vegetables for bacterial contaminants of clinical potential. The outline includes the background, objective, vector, results, and correction. Eat your food as medicine, so as not to eat your medicine as food. But when the food to be eaten as medicine now becomes metabolic poison, valuable information are needed to prevent us from booby traps, as advised by the ancient British cook. Salad is a mixture of uncooked vegetables and fruits that can be eaten raw or partially boiled, and are a source of good phytonutrients and antioxidants that are capable of fortifying body immunity against microbial infection. How can such good source of nutrients be poisoned? Salads can be contaminated by bacteria associated with vegetation, sewage sludge, wastewater supplies, pre- and post-harvest handling, locally sourced manure, nomadic cow dogs, unhealthy personnel, equipment, and untreated waters. Objective. This study evaluated some selected salad food vegetables that includes carrots, cabbage, and cucumber obtained from Shagam Imperial Market Access in State, Nigeria for bacteria of clinical potential. Method. Exactly 20 grams of 3 selected types of salad were macerated and suspended in 20 ml of sterile distilled water for 1 hour with intermittent potency. 10-fold serial dilution of each salad samples, of which each dilution factors were spread rated on different selective, differential, and general purpose agar medium. Total viable counts were estimated on plate counts, agar medium, and McConkey agar medium separately, followed by antibiogram of the isolates of bacteria obtained from the evaluated salad samples using modified Kelby-Bauer method. The results: 5 different bacterial species were isolated. 5 different bacterial species were isolated, and the total viable count of bacterial load of 4.9 times 10 to the power colony forming units per mil, 4.9 times 10 to the power 8 colony forming units per mil for cabbage was recorded as the highest, while that of carrots was found to be the lowest with the value of 1.3 times 10 to the power 9 colony forming units per mil. The prevalence of resistance of the isolates to the conventional antibiotic varied relatively. This is the table that shows the total viable counts. Then the antibiogram of the isolated bacteria from the sample, which shows that most of the antibiotics were resistant, most of the isolates were resistant to most of the antibiotics, and you can see that gentamicin showed the isolates were sensitive to gentamicin and clotrimazole as well as tetracycline. Conclusion. The preponderance of resistance of the isolates of clinical potential obtained to selected conventional antibiotic is alarming, coupled with potential to initiate foodborne infection of epidemiological proportion. Therefore, thorough washing with sterile water is ever advised. Also, it is not that some market sellers they tend to soak vegetables and salads overnight with the aim of attracting buyers to make them feel like the salad is clean. And they don't know that the chemical ingredients might have been absorbed by the vegetable. And when ingested, it can lead to toxicity. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Sir? Okay. Well, I must commend the confidence with which discussed the subject matter. Can we go to your slide of the results? I just want to make a comment. Okay. Yes. Now, please go to the next slide. The comment I just want to make on this slide and the next slide is that for subsequent presentations, you know what is there. But at a point, I noticed that you yourself had to struggle to move close, you didn't see, you understand? This is not legible. And you know, in an academic setting like this, if your audience cannot see, number one, you don't even tell us the bacterial species that were identified. I assumed that I would not see them on a table. And unfortunately, this is not. Please go to the next slide. The same thing here. You know, if you had the option of reducing the font size for gentamicin and then increasing the title and then increasing the slide and then make it more legible, I think you should have gone for the latter, using a very clear font type, increasing the size to make it legible, right? So please take note for future presentations. But overall, I think you showed confidence, and you must be commended for that.
Then also, was there a comparison between maybe the vegetables that were washed and unwashed, probably to know if those organisms would still be isolated despite being washed?
For the organisms that were isolated, there was Staphylococcus aureus, we have Salmonella, we have Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Shigella. I think those were the 4 organisms. And as for the comparison, the salad were soaked directly, just to know the contaminants. Like as they were coming from the market directly, they were just used like that. So because most people don't wash fruit soap like for the.
So how are you taking care of salad?
I can wash with salt.
When you are saying steroid, your title please. The title please.
The time is valuation.
Yes. What's the technical potential?
Total potential, they are organisms that are liable to cause, they are pathogenic organisms that are liable to cause infection.
And that's technical potential. Yeah, the pathogenic or and then I have problem. Indication is better.
Okay.
Potential means that you can choose to think for that things. Yes, most of the I had the measurement start for I can take some equal I did mention and take Salmonella, the rest, together. What start? Because these are mostly I expect that natural bacteria is the ones you're looking for. You understand? But now you're talking of start. Why do you do start? But because most bacteria should be the ones that were implicated. However, I think I like your boldness and the way you were speaking without fear.
If there was 10 marks, you get and 2 marks for boldness, you get 2 marks. I mean, 8 marks, still to get it. Okay. Any other person online?
I'm online. I need to present.
Professor Namadi, are you ready now?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, please proceed. Yes, so 5 minutes, please. You have started.
Okay, so the title of my talk is Transdermal Delivery of Artemether Nanogel in Treatment of Skin Cancer, and my name is Petra Namani. It's not moving. So by way of introduction, cancer is a menace in the world at the moment, and a current survey showed that 63% of cancer-related deaths are reported now in the underdeveloped world, and Nigeria is having increasing cases of cancer. And so our interest was to look at skin cancer, which is one of the most common cancers around us. You can see in this picture. And this is actually an abnormal proliferation of human melanocytes occurring in different parts of the body, because melanocytes make up 90% of skin cells, is in the eyes, is in the intestine, and so there's current surge in the abnormal growth of that cancer in Nigeria. So currently, anti-cancer drugs we know are highly toxic, non-specific, and are costly. And efforts at developing new agents are very intensive in terms of cost, research, and even approval requirements. So repurposing existing drugs is an end thing in focusing at the moment on cancer treatment. And so in this study, we looked at artemether, which has been shown to be an anti-cancer despite its anti-malaria activity, to be our model drug for repurposing for this anti-cancer treatment. And we tried to develop a novel drug delivery system based on this artemether using nanostructured lipid carriers, which is a second-generation lipid delivery system that corrects the shortfalls of solid lipid nanoparticles. So the aim of our research was to design, formulate, and characterize this nanostructured lipid carrier put into a nanogel to help in skin application, and then investigate its anti-cancer property. Our methodology, we use 2 solid lipids, Softisan 154 and phospholipid 90H. Then our liquid lipid is transcutol, which we pigylated with PEG 4000. Then artemether was dissolved in a combination of these lipids at graded concentration of 250, 500, 1 gram, and 2 grams. Then the aqueous system, we had between 80 and sorbitol as components of the aqueous system, and this whole system The two systems were heated at 80 degrees centigrade, and the aqueous system was added into the lipid phase by homogenizing at 10,000. Hello? So after the initial homogenization, we homogenized at a higher speed using ultrathorax, and we got the nanostructure lipid carriers, which we entrapped into a hydrogel formed with carbopol 940 to form our sample nanogel. And so we characterize the nanostructure lipid carriers by particle size, zeta potential, polydispersity index, morphology, and all that. Then look also at the properties of the nanogel, including its study on the cytotoxicity and anti-proliferative activity on SCC25 skin carcinoma cells. So our result shows that we actually, the lipid matrix we worked at was actually having lower enthalpy values. Even the formulations were having lower enthalpy values compared to the single entities that make them up. And that was our intention, to make an imperfect system that has spaces to occlude the drug. Now we're able to form nanoparticles at 84 to 119, less than 120 nanometer. And the particles were uniformly dispersed, and also they were uniformly dispersed and very stable. You can see the zeta potential values were very high, more than minus 31 up to minus 34. And we had high encapsulation efficiency as well, between 90 and 80 and 92. So can you hear me, please?
Yes.
So here is the morphology of our particles. You can see here A is our altimeter and the lipids and our formulation. And the release we got of altimeter from the NLC formulation in PBS ethanol mixture gave us nearly 80% altimeter release. So the kinetics of the release from NLC showed Higuchi mechanism as the predominant mechanism, which was diffusion dependent. And then we now moved on to analyze the nanogels, and the nanogels had suitable pH for skin application at 5.5 generally, and this was stable through 6 months of storage. And the optimized nanogel formulations we got from batches A4, B4, and C3 actually had high drug content, and the drug content didn't change much within 6 months. The change was insignificant. The nanogels were spreadable on the skin and with very mild force. And the in vitro occlusivity, we can see here at 24 hours and 48 hours, were showing us a thin film on the skin, which suggested that the system could reduce transepidermal water loss to increase skin hydration and subsequent deposition and penetration of altimeter on the skin. So we looked at the release of the nanogel in alcohol water mixture and PPS alcohol mixture, and we found out that because there's no standard formulation of altimeter as nanostructure lipid or nanogel, we had to use our NLC as standard to compare the performance of our nanogel. And in this figure 5, we were able to establish that from the nanogel, altimeter was able to be released up to the tune of 60%, 50% from the A4 batch.
Conclusion, madam.
So we looked at
Time has gone.
so hello.
Hello, conclusion.
So we looked at conclusion. Okay. So the SSC 25 cell carcinoma cells were actually grown within 10 days, and the confluence was confirmed. And we found out that our preparations at 24 hours could not inhibit or reduce the population of the cells that grew. But at 24 hours and 72 hours, there was massive reduction in growth up to 40%. And we went ahead to confirm that that was the same source for the various nanogel batches.
Thank you, ma'am.
And we conclude by saying that our B4 nanogel batch had the highest cytotoxicity on the growth and maintenance of the cells. So we conclude that we actually could deliver artemether as an anti-cancer treatment for skin carcinoma from our in vitro studies, but this is yet to be done in vivo. Thank you.
Thank you. Any question on the nanogel formulation? For those who are paying attention, any question, please? Yes, Prof, I want to ask. Artemether is lipid soluble.
Yes.
Formulated in a lipid base, and your mode of mechanism of release seems to be G-base. Do you think that you have sufficient release in vivo?
Sorry, I'm not getting you correctly. You're talking about release?
You are formulating the artemether, which is lipid soluble in a lipid base. We need to have sufficient release since the diffusion. Do we have sufficient release in vivo?
Yes, definitely. Actually, this process, we have a patent technology on this method of formulation for artemether still as a nanostructured lipid carrier and as a nanogel, but not in this current study. It will have actually in the system, because it's a lipid-based delivery, it follows the lymphatic system if you have to take it orally. But on the skin cells, yeah, it's quite easy to go into the skin cells because the phospholipid we use is amphipathic. So it makes artemether to be soluble in the oil and in water. Whatever absorptive side, it goes in well, yes.
Thank you very much. So let's go on to your second presentation.
Okay, my second submission.
Yes, please.
Yes,
please.
I have another presentation. I'll share now.
Yes, please let's pay attention to the second one. Dr. Charles, okay. Dr. look at me, Charles, okay. Let's pay attention to the second presentation. Very more interesting.
Are you there?
Yes, we are there, and we are with short of us now.
Can you see my slide?
Please.
Yes. Okay, in this presentation, the title is Design and Evaluation of Nanostructural Lipid Carrier of Bengenin isolated from pentacollateral macrophylla for anti-inflammatory effects on lipopolysaccharide-induced inflammation responses in macrophages. I'm Petran Namani, and is a whole lot of co-authors I worked with, you can see. So, inflammation, of course, we know is a body's defense mechanism that can be natural or induced, and inflammatory conditions develop in many diseases we can see from this figure here. And plants have been used from time immemorial to treat inflammation, and one of such plants is pentacollateral macrophylla. In folkloric practice, it has so many uses as an anti-leprosy agent, as antimicrobial, and so on. So we isolated bengenin as a bioactive natural compound from pentacollateral macrophylla. And bengenin has a lot of pharmacological effects, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, antimicrobial, anti-HIV, and so on. But it is limited in clinical practice because it has very poor oral absorption due to its low solubility. So our aim was to enhance its solubility and absorption in the system using nanostructural lipid carrier, which I've already somehow introduced in the last lecture. So lipopolysaccharide here is an endotoxin. We know that is secreted from the cell wall of gram-negative organisms like E. coli, and it induces immune response in the body. So that was what we used to induce inflammation in the cells we worked with, the macrophage cells, and tried to investigate the performance of our system or to know if our system is able to release benganin to inhibit the release of this cytokine, inflammatory cytokines. So here is our method. We started by extracting 2.5 kilograms of dry stem bark powder of P. macrophylla, and the crude methanol extract was subjected to preparative HPLC, and benganin was recovered after lyophilization. This benganin was now characterized by proton NMR, carbon 13 NMR, depth 135, and analytical LCMS analysis, and we quantified the yield of the benganin. So we went ahead to use the benganin to formulate the nanostructure lipid carrier. In this study, our lipid composition was different from the previous presentation. We worked with Gelusil 4301 and phospholipid 90H as the solid lipid. The liquid lipid was only transporter, and the benganin was delivered at graded concentrations, and the aqueous phase was added into the lipid phase upon steering at 10,000 RPM for 5 minutes. And that was sped up in homogenization using ultrathorax at 28,000 RPM for 15 minutes. And then we got our NLC dispersion, which we characterize in so many ways: particle size, zeta potential, polydispersity index, morphology, DSC, FTIR, encapsulation efficiency, and all that. So we investigated also the cytotoxicity of our system on differentiated macrophage cells, and also investigated if our system is able to release the benganin in enough quantity to inhibit the release of inflammatory cytokine, the indices of this inflammation were to check out for tumor necrosis factor alpha and interleukin 6 as the inflammatory cytokine. So inhibition of this of the secretion of these cytokines by the LPS induced inflammation was to give us a positive signal as to whether benganin was having anti-inflammatory activity or not. Our results concluded that we have nanoparticles in place, very small ranges, and we had polydispersed system, which were stable, high encapsulation efficiency, and a very amorphous system. That was figure 2 here is actually the structure of the benganin we isolated, and the release we had of the system we formulated showed that 50 milligram NLC formulation gave us about 40% drug release. And this was, when you compare it to the pure benganin, which was about 16%, you really agree with us that there was enhancement of solubility to the point of 2.4-fold increase. So here is our optimized system. The morphology of the optimized system, you can see our particles were spherical. So in the cytotoxicity study on differentiated macrophage cells, we found out that benganin was not toxic to the macrophage cells, and our formulation at 10 microgram per ml was highly toxic, but at lower concentration it was not toxic. And this observation also goes for the blank NLC. But the whole extract, the plant extract used as a whole entity, also showed this dose-dependent toxicity, so that lower concentration, it was mildly toxic or not toxic at all, but at high concentration, it was very toxic. And then looking at the anti-inflammatory effect, the standard anti-inflammatory drug we used was budesonide. And you can see from this figure 6 and 7 that budesonide was completely inhibiting the release of cytokines. It was not detected at all. So that was the standard. Our system showed that benganin had no, the benganin we isolated had no anti-inflammatory effect at lower concentrations at all. It could not inhibit them. And our formulation showed that at 1 microgram per ml concentration, that the NLC inhibited tumor necrosis alpha secretion, but not interleukin-6. And this observation was different from what we got from the whole extract.
Okay, let's stop there. Thank you very much. Any question for the presenter, please? Any question or comment? But generally, the clarity will not do much about it because it's a line. But the presentations were not really, the font size were not really legible for the audience. So, but no, that's not really why we're not really paying attention.
No, I did not hear this. It was not clear.
So, any question for those who are able to hear or see anything? So, but the concept,
too much information to
yes, there were lots of things to share. So, but from the conclusion, I think we can say that much work was done, and I think it's very encouraging.
Good afternoon, everybody. The older generation will remember what Chinua Achebe said in his work, Things Fall Apart, about making a bet. We say that since men have learned to shoot without missing, it has also learned to fly without pressure. The same thing is what is going on between man and microbes. That is why I have this presentation on antimicrobial activity of the living and step back from where I can isolate clinical evidence. Thank you. Okay, this is the outline of the work.
Yes.
The war against microbes, according to a photo in 2024, Thomas et al. 2021, rages on as resistant organisms spread silently through infections globally. Thus, we search for alternative therapeutic agents to combat this menace in cancer. Next slide.
Next slide.
Okay, currently, we all know globally that there are growing interest on the use of alternative therapeutic agents in dealing with infections. These are some of the perceptions people have about that the products are available, they are cost effective, and that there are various sources for many products we have. Especially in Nigeria, where most of our synthetic drugs are no more available on our shelves and in our hospitals. However, in Nigeria, just like in many developing countries, we have some challenges which are where we depend so much on alternative therapeutic agents. Some of the challenges we have is that we have poor documentation and scientific evaluation of many claims that are available in total. Next slide. Where can we? It's called evacuating Yoruba, North Central Nigeria, Eru Yoruba, has Kaifi in Hausa, Northern Nigeria, according to Mallet. So it's one of such plants that have so much claims, but much proofs have not been done scientifically about it. Therefore, this present study describes the antimicrobial sensitive pattern of the food extract and the fractions of urea can be in normal glycine, meeting and native acetic restorative. This lesson. Plant materials, the plant were the leaf and the stem, a stem back of urea can be collected in Shagamu State University. Identified the body department of the Olajuwon University. The voucher was deposited in the taxonomy department in Forestry Research Institute for Technology. The preparation has to do with air drying of the plant parts, the powder extracted separately, 85% heat and water, and the filtrate were concentrated using rotary evaporator. qualitative and chemical screening was carried on. So it was about active, just like all the organisms used were clinical isolate that were obtained from medical parasitology laboratory of another university. They were confirmed biochemically, and it confirmed again with analytical profile methods. Right. Preparation of the involves the use of the overnight culture of bacteria and fungi. In line with CMSI, local bacteria and all two positive bacteria, 4 negative bacteria, and 2 fungi condition study. Next slide. Go on. Okay. Go to materials and awesome.
One science.
Okay, this is all just trying to guess. Okay.
Don't put it on presentation.
Okay, where these are the results of qualitative pharmaceutical screening. This is what we need. This is the results where the following compounds were detected. Now this is the next slide. Okay, this is the outcome of screening of the stem powder. Is this slide? Okay. This is the antimicrobial extract. This is the sensitivity of the food extract. This is the sensitivity of the food extract of the leaf. Next slide. Okay, this is also okay, this is the food extract, sorry, the food extract of the stem part. Next slide. Okay, this is the end grade fraction of the leaf. Okay, that shows no sensitivity of the tested organism to this very fraction. We have 3 fractions below. Yes, next slide. Okay, this also is the one of the dichromethane fraction of the leaf still. There are no activity. Next one. Conclusions. Okay. 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 In that conclusion, from the finding based on the sensitivity of both the foods and the fractions, we could preliminarily conclude that this plan suggests that to be broad spectrum of activities. Since all the organisms that we tested are positive stability, fungi, necessity. And we feel that further study will be suggested on the plan that if it's properly exploited, will be a strong strategic drug to combat the menace of pathogenic organisms. Thank you so much.
These questions and comments, please. Yes, ma'am.
Please, your title. Go to your title.
Title page.
Yes, title page.
Title page, sir.
This your plan. What is the family? What do you call it? The authority. You're supposed to put it. We don't know. The authentication.
The authority for the
plans are supposed to be you have to put it there after the name of the plant. And when you are talking about your result, you say this is the sensitivity. I don't understand. What to that result sensitivity where you are talking about the sensitivity? What is changing?
The pattern of the tested organisms to the.
So what is it? Well, you are saying this is the sensitivity. Is it sensitive? What do you mean by that?
the figures we are seeing.
Okay,
Is
those
it
are the
the
zones of inhibition.
You didn't say it, and what is it, and what was the borer size?
Borer size is 6 mm. It's just that you know because of
We could not see it. So you see, if we know the borer size, did you subtract it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You didn't tell us. You just said this is the sensitivity. This is so we don't know what is it that you're talking about. So next time you say maybe it's on the table, I could not see it. So that you will tell us that the borer size has been this thing. So what you have is actually the zone. And don't say sensitivity. Just say zone of inhibition. So that because I could not see the other results.
Any other question, please, or comment? It seems there's a low level of glucose. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sanusi Fatima Adebukola. My research idea is on assessment of quality of pharmacist-patient communication in Nigeria tertiary hospital. Next. In recent decades, pharmacy practice has changed from drug-oriented centric to patient-oriented services. And this as a result of the introduction of pharmaceutical care, which has brought many roles to pharmacy practice globally. Next slide. What do we do to carry out this survey? It was a cross-sectional survey that was conducted among outpatient pharmacists, 159 outpatient pharmacists at Olabisi Onabanjo University Teaching Hospital. We used the satellite pharmacists, different satellite pharmacists that are present at Olabisi Onabanjo University Hospital, including the main pharmacists. We have like 11 satellite pharmacists in Olabisi Onabanjo here. So we use a structured, well-validated questionnaire to take our survey from the outpatients. First of all, we went to the pharmacists and the different satellite departments to introduce what our research idea was to them so that it will make the job easier for us when we're dealing with the patients. What do we find out? In our results, we had 100% response rates, and the results showed that 32.1% of the participants were between the age rate of 35 to 44-year-old. They are majority of them resided in urban areas. Majority of them with female, maybe due to the very hard economic situation, we should expect that many females will be having one ailment or the other due to different thoughts in their brain. We have 54.7% at most secondary school people, and analytically, the result was processed by using SPSS, and we use chi-square to find the association between the socio-demographic status of our patients and other variables that we found out about them. So, as I was saying, in the results, 66 points. Previous slide, please. So when we find out the relationship between the socio-demographic status and the variables we check in those patients, we found out previous slide, please. So 83.6% agree that
pharmacist communication positively impacted their satisfaction. And 83.6% also agreed that pharmacist communication style influenced their perception of the hospital quality. Also, 83.7% of these patients felt confident asking questions when they were with pharmacists. Likewise, 83.7% of pharmacists of the patients agreed that pharmacists advise improve their health outcome, which is the major thing. Which is the major thing pharmaceutical care is all about. As pharmacists, what we are targeting is strong positive outcomes when we're dealing with our patients. And as a result of the communication, very strong and effective communication between pharmacists and the patient, we found out that the majority of the patient agree that as a result of communication between them and the pharmacist, they were able to arrive at very good outcome, which may be economical outcome, which may be clinical outcome, which may be emotional outcome. But in conclusion, pharmacist communication with patients is a fundamental thing that can bring about a strong pillar in the erection of pharmaceutical care globally. So I see this pharmacist patient communication as a public health issue that each and every one of us should handle with care, that we should lay more emphasis upon, probably when we are teaching how our trainings to our students in different parts of the nation we have. We should make sure communication skill is embedded in our students so that when they get out, public health issue will be managed strongly by pharmacists because we are the first point of contact to patients because we are located in different areas of where people are living. So as a result of this, I'm concluding that we should see pharmacist patient communication as a public health issue. So these are my key words, pharmacist communication, and these are my references. Thank you so much for listening.
Any question or contribution before I start my own question? I want to thank you for your presentation. You had about 87% positivity, and to my mind, the conclusion about that the patients were saying it improved their health situation. It's kind of subjective to me. Did you follow up on really was there an improvement, or they could just be saying it to the pharmacists, so that the pharmacists will not feel bad? Because you must eliminate subjectivity, and it has to be really objective about it. You understand? So I really want to find out.
Okay, in the questionnaire, it's not the pharmacist that the satellite department that administered the questionnaire. We did ourselves. So we use a like health skill. So based on that like health skill, we score it before we arrive at this.
But still, I'm talking about their true health situation. It's not what they are saying. There's a slide on the percentage of respondents, maybe more females. Can we have that slide, please? This one. And the reason you are giving for females to be more in this your study, I don't think I agree. Can you give us that reason again?
Okay, I said probably because of the economic situation in the country.
That will affect males more than females. Yes, I would have, if you have said something like females tend to attend the hospitals early when they have any issue, that will stand for it. But males, they wait till it is an emergency and it's more as a quiet second, like the man will say. But for economic reason, that will not be for the females. Most times, I think that will affect males more. That's my own personal opinion. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other contribution or question, please?
What's the topic again, sir? Assessment of quality of pharmacist-patient communication in a tertiary institution in Nigeria. A Nigeria tertiary institution.
Use just two topics. First one, the second one. But the second one covers it very well. In a, not just a tertiary.
Just use a tertiary institution.
Yes, that's the second.
Okay.
Nigeria.
Noted.
Okay. Thank you. I hope that's the last presentation. Praise the Lord.
The last presentation. I want to appreciate all of us, our patients. So now we are going for food. But while we are waiting for them to serve, we can just run the postal section and then see the posters by that side, by the left side. So see the posters, and then before we finish that, we'll be called to come and take our. Thank you very much once again. Thank you.
That is why it's going to be controlled. See, look at it. Is to standardize the process of the business. So it will be controlled in a way that no matter how you think, after all, you will be giving justice. Are you getting me now? And if your problem is high blood pressure, as you are taking, you are checking. Are you getting me? It's not something you will be taking continuously without giving attention to your system. Are you getting me now? So as you are taking, you are checking. What is a combined SDS? Yes. So you combine it.
No. There's nothing like that. It's 180. It's 101, 102, 103. Which one?
Just
Don't take her back first. You can't take the key and they sell it somewhere in the
When you take this one, you increase the quantity of
So the other formulation, yes, it's just a great So for the other
So that is why you want to do that. No, now from this picture.
We are actually checking antimicrobial effects, which means.
But you say literature say it has antimicrobial activity against what?